I have everybody's attention now? Hi!
Brings like these, huh, Gary?
And here we go.
And welcome back. We are on part 2 of episode 2 of the With Friends Like These podcast. I am sitting here with my guest this morning, Eric Garbaldi.
You have 3 more minutes until it's not morning.
Oh, well.
So I'll let you know.
Well, they'll let it slide. Well, I mean. All right, well, if in case you missed our first one, you can go back and listen to part 1. We talked about Eric's career.
We talked about a lot of stuff.
We did. We talked about music. We played musical word association therapy. That was
There was some gems there.
right there. But now we're going to talk about some mutual hobbies. Or
Okay.
a mutual hobby.
That sounds good to me.
Yeah. Eric, you are a fan of horror films.
Yeah, I am in my own specific way. Horror films are something that I enjoy, but I enjoy
Really?
them
Because I feel like many people do too. I don't
Yeah,
know.
like it's yeah. Shut up. It's a pretty well liked genre because it's so easy to, because they're always so short, and it's just easy to sort of fall into these stories and these different types of movies and situations, and it's like, yeah, I'm gonna watch some psychopath kill some bitches, and it's all good.
Right?
Like that's essentially it. Like, I don't think that's why I like them. I don't think I could actually pinpoint why I like them. It's just the idea of a lot of these things, and we're about to get into the types of stuff that I like. But I think a lot of people do, if they were in these situations, what would they do? You know,
I never,
like-
it's funny. After saying, hey, well, let's talk about horror films, and I'm going to ask you, questions about it. Why do I like horror films? Like, what is it in my psyche that's like, I want to watch someone's head get cut off?
Yeah, like at the end of the day, like on paper, it's like, yeah, we have a situation here. Like, why
we
do you
need to
like
go
these
back
so
and have a
much?
different therapy session than the musical one
Yeah.
we just had.
Right. I mean, I'm a fan of a bunch of different types of movies, but horror films are always something that I enjoy watching.
Honestly, I think for me, it maybe I'm trying to see how to say this, to word it right. At the end of the day, it's still an emotion or a feeling that I feel from watching something.
Yeah, sure.
You know what I mean? If
Absolutely.
it's fright, if it's suspense, if
Yeah.
it's
Yeah, 'cause,
anything.
like, I'm not a huge fan on gore. Like, I don't really do
no,
gore.
No.
Like, that's not really gonna sell it for me.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, there's a whole slew of movies that are based around that, and that's fine. Like, that's one, that's made to be exactly what it is. Like, it's just a scare fest for, just a 90-minute binge on seeing blood and guts and all this stuff. And that's not really the type of stuff that I'm into, but it still has the same effect on different people. Like, it's fucking terrifying, and it's just, it's a good watch. A lot of them are just a solid watch. Some of them
I
aren't.
agree.
There are plenty that
Although
aren't.
there's plenty, especially, I don't know if it comes along with us getting older, but like, it's funny, right? You ever notice, since we, like, going back to the music, where when we were growing up, it's like we liked what we liked, the current modern stuff. Well, at least for me.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if it was for you, but you said you went into the whole metal thing too, so.
Yeah.
But then you'd have, the parents who were like, no, AC/DC, Metallica, Iron Maiden, this is where it's at. And we're like, no, that's so old, and I don't care about that.
Right.
I like, new stuff. And I'm always going to like new stuff. And suddenly the new stuff wasn't so new anymore.
Yeah.
And then the new stuff coming in was crap.
Yep.
And now I found myself in that father position, quote unquote.
Yeah, yeah.
It's just like, oh, I like Godsmack. I like Disturbed, Slipknot, Stone Sour, stuff like that.
Side note: a lot of these groups are influenced by horror films.
Yes.
It's
This is
metal
true.
music and horror films go hand in hand a lot of the time.
Absolutely.
in different ways.
But I found myself that way with movies too. Like the older movies, the movies that we grew up with are the gems, are the ones that are, so good.
Yeah.
And then the newer horror movies or newer movies coming in is just like,
Yeah.
why can't they be this, what I used to watch? And
Yep.
you would think they'd be better with, technology advancing, special
Sure.
effects.
Absolutely.
But it's like, what? Why aren't I drawn to these movies like
Right.
I once was?
Well, I think with a lot of stuff, it's just it's a level of comfort.
Mm-hmm.
It's a level of nostalgia. It's sort of like how our generation is with Boy Meets World. Like we fucking love Boy Meets World. We can't really tell you why. It's just that it's a fucking amazing program.
Oh, I think it goes back to the whole every episode makes you.
It makes you feel something,
right in the feels.
And kids these days, I don't know. Have you ever watched like a modern day kids show on like Nickelodeon or like the Disney Channel or something like that?
I'm proud to say I haven't.
It's like it's a hot mess. It's like what is this? Like the shows we grew up with had feeling to it. And I think with films, just films in general, things are changing. The world of cinema is constantly changing.
Not to go back into it because we talked about it on the first episode with Steve. It goes back to the Ninja Turtles for me. That very first Ninja Turtle movie, it had everything you could want in a movie. It had action. It had drama. It had, the drama part. Like, the part, for me at least, when I go back and watch it, which I did a couple weeks ago when I was sick, I was like, I'm going to watch all 3 Ninja Turtle movies.
There you go.
And I did. But that first movie, the scene where, they're all kind of circled around the fire and they talk to Splinter.
Yeah.
Or try to, summon Splinter through the fire.
Yep.
Like, that is such a deep and dark feeling. And, like, that makes you feel, it makes you think. And then I go to this craptastic film, if you even want to call it that I saw of the supposed fucking Ninja Turtles.
I didn't see that. Are you talking about the Michael Bay one?
Yes, and it was just...
I didn't see it
Sure,
yet.
The action was great. Things are blowing up. As Steve like to said, fucking Skrillex is playing in the background. It's all dubstep, yeah. And it had no story.
Yeah. Well, it just goes to show you that a lot of things will change,
That, and because no one has attention spans for anything else anymore.
Yeah. I mean, if we were film executives and producers and things like that, we would love it because the thing is, the field is very, very well saturated right now.
Mm-hmm.
There's an audience for everything.
Mm-hmm.
So it kind of leads to an opportunity to be like, yeah, why don't we try this and see what happens? And again, a film expert, I am not, but I know what I like.
Well,
and
what I like, all my friends, you kind of watch the most movies, I think.
What I like doesn't seem to pop up nearly as much as it used to.
Hmm.
And, that's fine. That's just it. I'm perfectly fine watching the same 10 movies over and over and again.
Yeah.
Than I am, because I've changed this year. For the last few years, I've been really behind in the new movies that are coming out. I still haven't seen shit from like 4 years ago that did really well at the awards or whatever. But this year I decided to change. I was like, okay, I want to make sure I see everything. I still haven't seen everything yet. I've only seen Whiplash.
I still need to see, by the way.
But so I'm there was a time when I was really, really into films, and then I kind of got away from it for a little while just because I just did. But now I'm kind of coming back into it, and I really, really like them again. I'm happy with my collection. Like, I look at my collection, and I'm just like, I did all right for myself. I could have done worse.
You know what movie I really want to see that came out like a month ago or so? The Judge, the one that... Yeah,
I want to see that too.
And I know it's Robert Downey Jr.'s first movie he directed.
Yeah.
So I'm really... And it's got a pretty good cast
I mean,
in it, too.
I'm a huge Robert Duvall fan.
Robert Duvall!
Well, and that harkens back to my love of The Godfather. But Robert Duvall is so...
Duvall and Robert Downey Jr. Both of them.
Like, whenever I see... Regrettably, I haven't really seen a whole lot of stuff that Robert Duvall has done in his later years. but he's so captivating to watch.
I'm totally gonna find a sound clip of Chris from Family Guy yelling Robert Duvall over this.
I mean, not because we're the whole point is horror movies. I'm not going to get too much into it, but The Godfather is easily my favorite film. But yeah, I mean, the Judge, I did want to see that.
Yeah.
Robert Duvall looks really. He was nominated for supporting actor. I believe.
forget what movie it is now, but like me and my mom have a thing, like a little like agreement of she's gonna buy The Judge and I'm gonna buy another movie. Oh, Exodus. Gods and Kings. I'm gonna buy that and she's gonna buy The Judge because we both want to see those movies.
Yeah.
And we're just gonna sit and fucking watch them.
There you go.
Oh, I wanted to see Exodus so
it's
bad.
fun to do stuff like that. Like it's fun. The nice thing about movies is you can sort of create your own experiments and projects with a film. Like Sam and I just watched all the Oceans movies again. Oceans 11 through 13.
I have never seen a single one of
Dude,
those.
I love those movies.
Really?
I love them.
They're heist movies, right?
Yeah.
Just like classic heist movies?
Yep. Oceans 11 is a remake of an old movie that had Sinatra in it.
Mm-hmm.
Which actually, regrettably, I've never seen the original.
That's right.
But,
now that you mention that, I do remember that.
But they're great. They're great to watch. It's a fun watch. It's one of those that's classified as what I call a fun watch. It's like, you know what? I don't know what I want to fucking do today. Fuck it. Let's watch Ocean's 11. And it's like, it's great. They're really fun to watch. And
right.
Ocean's 13 has Al Pacino in it, and I'm a huge Pacino fan. So, it was a good time.
All right, let's get back on track. Horror movies, horror films.
Yeah.
In your opinion, what makes...
In my opinion, means so much.
What makes a good horror film?
That's a good question. Again, it varies from person to person, but to me, if I'm put into a situation that is what's being portrayed on screen, it's to the level that I'm going to find it scary for myself. So, if some dude is chasing me around a rural neighborhood with a chainsaw, that's pretty fucking scary.
It sounds like it could be a movie.
It could be. If some dude who used to live in my neighborhood now comes back and starts, staring at me through like, bushes and shit, that could be scary.
Another movie. Wow.
So again,
we should create these movies.
You know what?
Why haven't we done this yet?
The more I'm saying it, the more I think this is sort of a cop-out answer, because literally any horror movie I've seen, if I was put into those situations, I'd be shitting my pants. Like, if literally anything that's happened to me ever in any of those films that happened to, and they would happen to me, I'm pretty sure I would just self-implode. I wouldn't know what to do with myself. So I guess this is sort of a cop-out answer, but to me, it's gotta entice fear. That's not a word. It's gotta bring some level of discomfort to a viewer. However they're going to do that, that's up to the filmmaker. A good example of this is the Saw movies.
Yeah, which I want to add. The very first Saw, I've seen like 2 through 5, maybe, if I remember right.
Yep. That
very first Saw movie for me, I'm gonna get a lot of shit for this. Revolutionary, only just because it was a different kind of horror film for me.
Oh, it was
when
absolutely
I first saw
different.
it. And I will never forget. Spoiler alert! If you haven't seen the fucking first Saw movie from like 10 years ago,
I know, right? Wow.
The dead guy gets up.
Yeah.
Like, the fuck?
Yeah. Well, see, okay, so here's another fun story about me, folks. There's a lot of horror movies I have not seen. I haven't seen the rest of the Saw movies. I've only seen the first one. I have the first one.
With you, actually.
I have the first one. I love the first one.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't seen any of the others. People tell me you really only need the first 3, then you're good.
Yeah.
It's
actually,
okay,
I
fine.
agree with that.
That's okay. Like, I could get into that. I haven't seen the other 2, but whatever. The first one, oh my god, that first movie.
It's so good. Like ugh.
And that's another thing that we can really talk about and mention with horror films specifically is the idea of the series.
Like, and the thing is, horror movies are so different too. Like, it's a very broad.
Oh yeah.
Genre.
There's so many different ways you can approach it. There's like the zombie stuff. There's the slasher films.
Oh, zombie movies.
There's the psychological stuff. There's thrillers. There's anything like that. And there's good points about all of them. You know, it's really whatever, and that's the nice thing about it is there's bound to be a film that you'll like.
Exactly.
You know.
All right. So, okay, I got one. I got a question for you. What is actually no? Let's go with this one first. The worst horror movie you've ever seen?
Oh God, worst horror movie I ever saw. Well, okay. Now, when you say worst, do you mean?
No. See, because that's my next.
Do you mean
question.
bad
I know
on
what you're gonna
purpose?
say. I know what you're gonna say. See, I that's why I hesitated at first because I was like, should I skip over that question or should I not? Not your.
I mean,
bad,
to be honest,
like the good bad horror movies. No, like the ones that are awful but you still like. Not that, but like you
Yeah.
saw and you're just like, this was
like
I want my hour and a half of my life
Yeah.
back.
I don't know. I mean, again, there's a lot of them I just don't remember.
See,
You know,
one for me.
I remember seeing The Descent. Was that it?
I never saw that.
There was one of them that involved a cave, and I remember I
think
wasn't
it's
really
Descent.
into it. I don't know if I would call that the worst movie because a lot of people like that movie, but for me, it's just like, you
Well,
know,
it's personal. I mean,
like again, like I when it comes to a bad movie, I'm kind of bad at judging what
you know
makes
what?
a bad
People
film.
are going to kill me. Me and Kelly walked out of the theater watching this one. Me, Kelly, and Amanda. Wow, that goes back a long time ago. 28 days later.
Oh yeah.
God.
I never saw that one.
And I will promote these movies to the end of time. I love the Resident Evil movies.
Yep.
Love them.
Oh, I've heard those have kind of hit or miss. So.
Every single one. For whatever reason, it's a hit for me every time.
Yeah.
Except the fucking Apocalypse one. Like,
Yeah.
I think it was the second one. Oh, just
Mm.
no, not.
You know, and some of them I haven't seen. There's plenty of ones out there that people have seen
Well, if
that
you
I
ever
have
want,
not.
right over there, if you're looking right at it,
Yep.
I got every single one in that
Oh
box
yeah,
set.
there we go.
So now I'm gonna have to go back and watch every single one, except the second one. Fuck that one.
So yeah,
Uh-oh.
I remember watching that movie about the cave. I think it was called The Descent,
Mm-hmm.
and I remember watching it and just being like, yeah, this isn't really doing it for me. Like, in theory, it's really not all that different from everything else, but I don't know. I remember not being into it for whatever reason. Also, I mean, okay, you mentioned that your second question was sort of based around movies that are bad on purpose.
So yeah, because I have one. I'm curious. So bad, maybe not on purpose. Yes and no.
To
But,
me,
like,
any sequel that goes past like part 5,
yeah,
it's like
Yeah.
just stop. Just like, okay, like I get it. That's the whole thing with. Usually, it's slasher films.
Yeah.
Slasher films does Friday the 13th, Halloween, Nightmare on Elm Street, all those
we can
films.
talk about so much.
They go into like part like 12, or like the whole Freddy vs. Jason movie. That was kind of a train wreck.
Well, we're only on part 2 of the podcast, so we should be okay, right? We're not sucking yet.
Yeah, no.
Oh, part 3 through 5.
Oh man. So like the whole this idea of B-list movies, the ones that you go into the double feature at the drive-in back in the 70s and see,
That just makes me think of Machete Kills.
yeah, and Death Proof and
But side note, Machete Kills. I watched that. Fucking Charlie Sheen as the president. That's all I needed to see, and I was very happy.
yeah. Those movies are really fun. Like I actually just watched a B-list horror movie the other day. It was on Netflix, and another thing to know about me is I'm a huge fan of H.P. Lovecraft, and there was a B-list horror movie made based on one of his short stories called The Dunwich Horror.
I saw that the other day. Well, I mean, I
And,
didn't watch it. I saw it on my Netflix.
And
actually.
yeah, it's a B-list horror movie. It's like it's a loose plot. Well, it's not a loose plot because it's based around something that's already been written, but like. There's nothing spectacular about it in any sense. It's just a fun watch.
Complete side note.
Okay.
Completely side note. The
Okay.
Birds. What's that classified under?
Birds, maybe thriller. A lot of Hitchcock stuff is like,
It was meant to be.
it's meant to be horror based on the
it's-
time zone, like the time,
yeah,
the era
it's
it came
hard
out
for
in.
us to see it as horror. I
Yeah,
think.
like the Birds. It's like, I mean, that's that's fucking intense.
Oh
you know,
yeah. Oh yeah.
like,
Intensity is definitely.
But I don't know if it's.
a word I would use for that.
I think it is classified under horror, but I mean, and that's for, that's up to the person to decide what they think horror is.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry, if you ask me, a fucking huge slew of birds pecking out my fucking face, yeah, that's pretty fucking horrifying.
In your opinion, what would be your top 5 favorite horror films?
My top 5. Okay, so it's really hard to get past, like, once I get to number 4 and 5, it starts to get kind of tricky. Because hands down, my favorite horror movie, hands down, is The Exorcist. I just, there's something about that
Can I admit
movie.
something?
Yeah.
I have never seen it.
You know what? It's,
And I know I'm not the only one, so I feel like I'm safe to
Yeah.
kind of say that.
yeah.
But
Oh,
still,
trust. There's
I-
plenty that I haven't.
I am
seen.
ashamed. I'm very ashamed.
Yeah, I mean,
And it's on Netflix, isn't it?
Is it really?
Wait.
I wouldn't know.
It
I
might
wouldn't know
be.
because I've had it on DVD forever.
Well, then I think I might
And-
just have to borrow it then.
Yeah.
Because honestly,
The Exorcist.
I need to see it.
It's now another thing I like to do is I like to do this especially with horror movies. Is I like to try to put myself in a situation where it was when the film came out.
Mhm.
The film came out 30 something years ago, 40 something years ago.
I feel like it's very important for you to do that.
Yeah.
I mean,
And there's footage
you
of people coming out of the movie theaters, vomiting
yeah.
because of this movie. And you go and watch it now in the year 2015. It's like, yeah, okay, it is what it is.
Yeah.
But to me, I love that movie. I love everything about that movie. I just love. I love seeing all the shit that happens in the bedroom with her, and I loved the the priest stuff, and a lot of another aspect of horror movies is religion.
Yes.
Religion plays a very large role in a lot of horror movies.
Absolutely.
And the idea of just someone being, taken over by Satan and the shit that happens to her in the movie.
Even
it's just-
that, like having the most like holy of people being taken over by Satan,
Yeah.
like that gives you even more of an intense fear of like, well, I'm not,
Yeah.
I'm not on that level. I'm just here.
Right,
If that
right.
can happen to that person, well, fuck, what's
Sure.
gonna happen to me?
Yeah. So, I mean, The Exorcist is easily.
And it's like, even if you believe or don't believe,
yeah, because I mean, I don't necessarily believe in that type
but
of
it
stuff.
still
But like
scares
the idea of
shit out of you.
that you could like your neck could be turned around 180 degrees is just like, okay, if that happened to me without me knowing it or saying, it's like, hey man, that's not cool to do. That's pretty fucking scary.
Mm-hmm.
So that is easily my number one. The Exorcist will always be my number one horror movie. After that, another one I like a lot is Halloween, the original
Yes.
Halloween movie. One of the reasons why is A, I'm a huge Carpenter fan.
Mm-hmm.
B, I love the fact that it was an independent film.
Yeah.
It was shot in like 2 weeks on a very, very small budget. And, it jump-started Jamie Lee Curtis's career. And it's just a great, it's a great movie. It's short and simple, and it's to the point, and they do a wonderful job.
Have you seen Zombies?
Yeah,
remake?
I've seen both of them. I have
What
both.
did you think?
The first one, okay, so whenever people ask me about the remakes, the Rob Zombie remakes, I'm like, okay, so here's what I feel about. I'm not going to even include the second one because the second movie wasn't based on anything else. It was
Yeah.
just a
I'm talking
continuation
about the very
of
first
his
one,
vision. So the first movie, there's two parts. There's two parts to his remake. The first part is this whole new spin that he decided to do, which is when he gives him a background. He gives Michael Myers a background. His
Mhm.
mom, his family, all this different stuff. The scenes of him in the asylum, all this different stuff. And then the second half is exactly like a frame for frame copy of the original. Now, the problem is he didn't really give anybody in the second part, meaning what's the name? I think her name is Lori, in the the girl and her friends. There's really no characteristics to any of them.
Mm.
They just kind of they're just there waiting to die.
Gotcha.
And if that's if you don't care about stuff like that, then you're fine. But some people like character development and other zing words like that.
Hey.
Out of like
I do.
maybe like if he kept with an original idea and doing the whole thing in the beginning where he gave him a background and you got to see a little bit more of what his background was like, I feel like it probably could have been cool, but I don't think I would ever choose to watch the remake over the original. I just and again, I mentioned it earlier, I'm not real big on gore, he brings the gore level up a lot higher.
It's fucking Rob Zombie, of course. he
Exactly.
does.
I mean, House of a Thousand Corpses. I never saw Devil's Rejects, but I saw.
I did. I watched it with an ex, and yeah, it
Yeah.
was.
I,
It was
I
good.
I remember House of a Thousand Corpses, and I was into it when I saw it, but
I mean, I didn't like it as much as she did, and she gives me shit for that even to this day.
So
it
yeah,
was good.
with it being such an iconic horror movie, I feel like it's sort of hard to convince people that it's going to be a decent. I mean, people are just like that. If you mess with something that isn't broke, it's going to be subject to ridicule. I'm not necessarily going to ridicule him for doing it because any remake of something to continue a story like that, to me, it's fine. I'll always watch something with Michael Myers in it.
Yeah, of course.
the
right?
the horror dude, not the Austin Powers guy.
Oh, shit! I thought we were talking about Austin.
Fuck, this is Austin Powers. I forgot.
Yeah, baby.
Yeah, so, but the original is it's so great. Everything about the original movie is so wonderful. So that's number 2. So 1, 2, 3.
Oh wait,
and this might be
your first one. Oh, you're going. Down your
yeah,
list.
I'm going right in
All
order.
right, so number 1.
Exorcist.
Okay.
Number 2 is the original Halloween, and I'm gonna try to go right in order. Now the third one, I thought long and hard about this, and I'm sitting there last night and I'm looking at
I
all
have
my
a
films.
feeling I know what it is, but I could
And
be wrong.
And I feel like this one doesn't really it doesn't get talked a lot about anymore
maybe-
because it's just
maybe
like,
I am wrong.
people just don't, but to me, it was so good is the original Omen.
Really? See, I would have sworn it was Silence of the Lambs.
See, I almost went with Silence of the Lambs didn't make the 5.
Wow.
Silence of the Lambs did not make the 5.
We talk about that movie all
We do.
the time.
We do.
too.
It didn't make the 5. I got to be honest, it didn't make the 5.
Damn.
Um,
I feel like I don't even know you.
I know. The original Omen to me is so good. It's so good. When I remember when I saw that for the first time, and the scene at the kid. Spoiler alert. When the maid hangs herself. Oh my god. No, you're at this kid's birthday party, and like up to this point in the film, it's like, oh yeah, an ambassador, a politician dude has a kid. Oh, he's acting a little weird. Okay, well we'll ignore it. Oh, it's his birthday party. There's like a carousel and shit on their property. Then all of a sudden, a maid jumps out of the fucking window and hangs herself. Oh my god. Okay, so shit's getting real. It was a cool film. The idea of all these things happening before they happen in different ways, like so for people who aren't familiar with it, because again, it's sort of on the beaten path a little bit. The original Omen is about this kid who is basically the spawn of Satan, and basically like all these things happen when these people get killed, and they get killed in really interesting ways because of a photographer took a photo of a priest, and on the photo that gets printed out, you see this dark line going through the guy's face, and then he gets and then during a lightning storm, a piece of like a statue gets struck by lightning, falls off of it, and it's a spear, and it stabs the guy through the face, and it's like, okay, this is kind of intense. So the Omen I like the Omen a lot. It's just something about that movie I could watch that and never get sick of it. Number 4, and this is one of my favorites as well, is the original Amityville Horror.
All right, see, you saw me over here typing. I put Amityville with a question mark.
Amityville
'Cause
Horror.
I really enjoy Amityville. Now, granted, I also like the remake with.
I saw the remake. Yep, I have the remake.
Maybe it's because I have a man crush on
Ryan Reynolds.
Reynolds. I fully admit it too.
Yep.
Like, whatever. But I really like it. Like,
Amityville
I feel like it was
great.
one of the first movies where he wasn't trying to be a comedy actor.
Yeah.
And I feel like he did
Oh,
it well.
there's nothing funny about that.
No.
there's nothing.
Well,
there's nothing funny about that role.
I mean,
Yeah, the Amityville is perfect. It's like that's like the the traditional haunted house, like blood coming out from the walls, all this shit. I love watching that. James Brolin is just so great in that movie.
Are we talking about your guitar?
The original? Yeah. I named my guitar. Yeah, I bought my Strat.
That should have been a question I asked you about your God damn it.
My Strat. When I bought my first Stratocaster, it was a day that I watched Amityville that night, and so I named my guitar James Brolin.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I knew it was named James Brolin, but I didn't know why.
Yeah. It's because I the day I bought it, I watched Amityville like that night, and I was like, you know what? Fuck it. Your name is James Brolin.
Interesting. I'm looking at mine, and I'm just like, I have really bad names, if I even have names for any of mine. Like, they're right behind you.
Yeah.
And the red one, the Schechter, that's Ruby.
Yep.
Just because she likes everyone's hands on her. I don't know. Sounds like a,
So yes, Amityville is a great watch. Just the idea of this dude like moves his family out to a house on Long Island, and there's this weird aura about the house, and he sort of just starts getting taken over by it. And
fun fact, my mom has been to that house.
Yeah, she's told me that before.
Yeah.
I would love to go see it. It's still up, it's still there.
I heard it's they tore the entire thing down and rebuilt it.
Yeah, they rebuilt it. Yeah.
Yeah, it looks nothing like it. They
changed.
They made a point to make sure that it was.
Well, I mean,
not the same house.
One of the scariest things about the fucking movie is the fact that the house looks like a fucking face.
It really does.
Looking at you.
Yeah.
The entire time. And another cool thing about horror movies, and I forgot to mention this with The Exorcist, but when they're based on true events, or using the term true events very loosely, because The Exorcist is based off a book that was based off of accounts of an actual case in the 50s of an exorcism. Amityville was based off of accounts of someone who lived in the house after a family lived there when the husband fucking went gorilla on the rest of the family with a fucking shotgun. And, so like, there's a whole story behind that. And to me, when horror movies get involved with actual life, then that's like, okay, done. I got it. This is...
See, I'm trying to remember, and I don't want to make my mom seem older than she is, but I don't know if she remembers when it happened or...
I'm drawing a blank on when it happened.
I know she has some sort of connection, or not connection, but you know what I mean?
Well, because she's from New York, right?
She's from Long Island.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So she,
there's something like she's
there.
told me something like she's like, I remember when it happened, or I knew somebody who was related to them. It was something along the lines of that.
Some sort of connection. Yeah.
That's
cool. That's interesting.
That's kind of fucking creepy. Side note, for anyone listening, by the way, do you remember? I don't know if you know this. Speaking of dead people and weird things, do you remember that stupid show? Wow, damn it, he's gonna kill me. That show, Crossing Over with John Edwards.
I don't think I ever watched it, but I do.
If you ever watched South Park,
yeah,
the biggest douche in the universe, John Edwards, that's my cousin. I am related to the biggest douche in the universe.
That's funny.
Yeah,
I didn't know that.
Yeah,
did I know that?
Fun fact, right?
I don't know if I knew that. I don't think I knew that.
Yeah, so when he was big and had his own show back then, you know, and he was doing all his things, that's my cuz.
Wow, interesting.
Yeah,
you learn something new every day.
And now they got the Long Island medium, girl.
Yeah.
My mom watches her. I swear it's only because she's from Long Island. She doesn't give a shit.
Probably, yeah.
It's
she has a few books out now, I think.
And she's just like, I relate. She's from Long Island.
Oh man. So I got 4. Now, honestly, the 5th one is sort of a toss-up. I mean, I'm a huge fan of Night of the Living Dead. I'm a huge fan of Cujo and Children of the Corn and a bunch of other Stephen King shit. So the 5th one, I kind of just will be like, it could be any one of it could be any one of like 7 more films. So really, those 4 are like a staple with me. Like I said, I'm a huge fan of Stephen King stuff. The Shining, Salem's Lot, I'm a huge fan of as well. Dawn of the Dead, things like that. So if you haven't noticed, I like a lot of older style horror movies. I'm not huge on like the newer ones. And really, it was funny because actually, I'll tip my hat to Sam. It's because of Sam that I ended up seeing a lot of modern staples like Blair Witch. I have not seen Blair Witch until less than a year ago is when I first saw Blair Witch.
Something I still need to see.
It's funny because it's such a staple to our generation.
Mm-hmm.
And seeing it now, you know what's funny? Seeing it now, I mean, it's when did it come out? Fucking the early 2000s, maybe. I don't
99, 2000,
Yeah.
maybe
And like
2001.
it's still scary.
Yeah.
Like, and nothing happens in it, but it's terrifying. For some reason, it's terrifying.
It's that first person view, I think.
Yeah, and it's like, you know,
Because, and honestly, I think it made such a big impact because it was I could be wrong. All right, I'll say it this way. It was one of the first movies to do that.
it was one of the first
film.
movies of its kind to be like documentary style.
Yeah.
You know, these kids are going out to make a film about something and found footage, you know, type of deal. There was if you think back to the original Texas Chainsaw, it opens up with found footage from the house, but they didn't expand on that idea. So yeah, Blair Witch sort of did that. And then of course you have a giant movie come in like Paranormal Activity, which sort of takes that and runs with it.
Now, what's your thoughts on those? Because I've seen every single one.
I've seen the first one. I've only seen the first one.
I've watched every single one. I honestly thoroughly enjoy all of them.
And again, this was another one that was sort of like, yeah, believe it or not, I haven't seen it. So we sat down and we watched it. I loved it. I loved it a lot because it was just like Blair Witch, you know.
Yeah.
They're basically like I could do that. You know, it's like, oh, some weird shit's happening in my house. Here, let me just press record, and then so I really liked the first one. I haven't seen the other ones. I hear they just get better.
Yeah.
The last I've heard the fourth one.
I don't know if it was the last one or the fourth one. It was there four or five, I don't remember at this point. One of them I was like, but I still enjoyed it. But yeah, it kind of fell off track a little bit.
Yeah, I've heard there's a few different opinions on the ones after the first one.
But
the first one's
though,
solid.
You go back to that, and it's kind of like the Saw movies, where that last scene, you're just like, oh shit.
Yeah.
You see it happening, and you're just like, oh fuck, and then you're like, all right, you're dead.
And like, I can see how people can sort of get like turned off by it. It's like, okay, all I'm watching is essentially just people walking around a house and shit's happening, and like, you know, there's nothing really exciting.
No,
for lack of a better word, exciting.
Yes, but
it's so realistic.
It's
and
realistic.
It makes you feel like it could happen at any point to you yourself.
But here, also for me, it's they're just walking around and nothing's happening, but anything can happen at any given time. You're kind of on the edge of your seat, kind of standing there.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
Wait. When, and then I like how they're pretty good at what they do is you think something's gonna happen, but then it's just like, we're gonna pull it back.
Yeah, sure.
Go back at it, pull it back.
Yep.
And then just when you think they pull it back again, it's like, all right, okay, I get it. I have no idea when you're gonna fucking do this to me.
Yeah. You know, and I think movies that do that to a viewer is doing something right.
Yeah,
you know,
exactly.
They're going, you know, they're not going right for the jugular and just giving you all this gore stuff right away.
And I'm definitely guilty of this. I kind of do the tough guy thing. It's like, oh well, I know exactly what's going to happen. They're going to do this and this and this. They're going to, you know, tease me here, tease me, and I hate doing that. But then it's just kind of like I'm smarter enough. I'm smart enough to know that this isn't going to happen here.
That's something I've done with crime movies a lot. Like, I'm a huge fan of crime dramas as well.
Mm-hmm.
And if you've seen enough, you start to see patterns repeat.
Yeah.
So when you can see things coming in a film, it still doesn't make it bad. Does it make it predictable? I mean, maybe to you, but maybe not to someone else.
Yeah.
So I know what you're talking about because I've caught myself doing that a few times too. It doesn't affect how I view something.
Honestly, the scariest moments in movies, like horror films for me now, are just like, you know, when they do a scene change and something hits something.
Yeah.
Like, I forget what movie it's from, but I actually think it might be from like The Ring or something like that.
Another movie I saw recently.
There's a scene that they change, and there's like a file cabinet that slams, and I jump every single fucking time, and I'm like, why? It's a file cabinet. God damn it.
Well, again, that's great camera work. You know, things that make you jump. I am not a fan of jumping. I do not want to jump when I'm watching a film.
Laugh I get so mad at myself.
Because I get fucking terrified. Like, and it could be something that's not a horror movie. It could be something that just makes you jump, and I'd be like, what the fuck was that? Don't do that. Like, I'm not a fan of jumping. So, like, you know, and unfortunately, it's funny that I like horror movies so much, but then again, you know, it's like those things that make you jump always just get me mad.
Yeah.
Like, oh,
like,
damn it. Because then I feel
man.
stupid, especially if it's not a horror movie.
I could have a complete like half-hour discussion about that, and bring in Sam, my ex. She used to do that to me all the fucking time. She used to love to fucking piss me off. Every goddamn time. I think there's a story. I don't remember what it was. I think when she was sleeping over one night, right? And I didn't notice she wasn't in the bed.
Yeah.
And I was like, I went up to go to the bathroom or whatever, and she's out there. And we just crossed paths, and I freaked the fuck out.
Yeah, I mean, when you're not expecting something, it's like, oh my god, this is the worst.
Like, she didn't even do anything. She just happened to walk up to me, and I think she went to, like, hug me or something. And that fact that she went to touch me, and I don't know what the hell's going on. My eyes aren't even open.
Yeah.
Oh my god. Oh, good times. Yeah, no, the element of surprise. It's a good strategy. It makes you feel alive.
Yeah, it does. It really does.
You love and hate it at the same time.
Exactly.
So, all right, we got your top 5.
Yeah,
so
roughly.
Recap.
Yeah.
1.
So, The Exorcist.
2.
Halloween.
3.
The Omen.
4.
Amityville Horror.
And 5.
Everything else.
All right. Fair enough.
Well, and I forgot to mention one that actually, the more I think about it, this one could easily, I would feel confident filling the 5th spot with this one, is Psycho. Is Hitchcock's Psycho.
Actually, I'm still hung up on Silence of the Lambs, to be honest with you.
Yeah, well, that's a good one too. But I really like Psycho. And, I mean, I'm a huge Hitchcock fan too. But Psycho is just so great because another thing that is really, really common to see in movies is things that have been done before.
Mm-hmm.
And I always love seeing the source.
Yeah.
You know, the shower scene in Psycho is just so, like, you know, it's a legendary scene, and it's been copied in every which way since.
It's parodied with everything.
Sure, it might get, like, you know, they might take it to the upteenth level, but just the simple thing of someone taking a shower and then someone comes in and literally stabs you to death.
Honestly, like, what I think of when I see that is vulnerability.
Yeah.
Like, absolute, there's times in our life that we are the most vulnerable, and that's it.
Yeah.
You're in the shower, you're butt ass naked, and here comes some dude with a knife.
Well, I guess this is a good way to go out as any.
Like,
yeah, you're right. Like and the storyline of Psycho is great too. Like, I mean, it's just, Psycho is a good one. I feel confident putting Psycho in the 5th seat.
So we'll say number 5 is
So
Psycho.
we'll say number 5 is Psycho.
I have my list, and it's gonna be, all right. I don't have it. I didn't put it in order because it's hard for me.
Yep.
But if I had to pick 5 that were a top 5, I definitely have The Ring. I think it's probably because I grew up off that movie, and it was one of the first horror movies that I went to go see on my own, kind of thing.
Yep.
And there's a good psychological base with that movie, and I like that too, added to the horror movie genre. That's just me. Something that makes you think, something that makes you kind of, oh, where's this going? There's a story to it.
Yep.
You know, it's got some meat to it.
Yep.
Friday the 13th for me.
The first one?
Yes.
Like the original?
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I love that movie.
And the next 2, fuck. If Sam's listening to this, she's gonna fucking, again, this whole entire time, she's just gonna freaking never let me live it down because she literally forced me to watch these movies kicking and screaming. Because I have this thing where if it's a movie that everyone has seen and talks about, I'm just like, no, I'm good. I don't need to see it. Whatever. The Shining.
Ha! I love The Shining.
That was such a good movie.
I love The Shining.
And I think while I was watching it, I didn't appreciate it as much as I should have. But
it's great.
Afterwards, I was just like, damn.
Stephen King hated that movie.
That was so good.
The Kubrick movie, he hated it. He absolutely hated it.
Really?
Yeah. I don't really know, like, the whole story behind it, but he wasn't a fan of Kubrick's film. Now, the funny thing is, I feel like I could do a whole other category of horror movies that are strictly Stephen King.
Yeah.
Because that's a whole other
Rose
category.
Red, one of my favorite.
I love Rose Red.
Oh my god.
I love Rose Red.
I actually need to read those books. So,
yeah.
Because wait. I need to read a different book first, Kelly. Yes, I will read Corey Taylor's Seven Deadly Sins before I read anything else. I swear to God. But no, like Rose Red. I remember watching that, and there was another one. I forget. Was it Emily Rose?
Oh yeah,
Something like that.
Yeah, Rose Red is based off of like Emily Baumgartner or something like that.
Emily Rose, yeah, something like that.
Yeah, it's
that was a prequel. That was pretty good too.
Yeah.
And those weren't actually really like theater movies. That was like miniseries.
Yeah, those were miniseries. Right? Rose Red was a miniseries.
I just thought that was so good.
Yeah, Rose Red is awesome.
So I got all right. The Ring, Friday the 13th, The Shining. Another one Sam forced me to watch. Carrie.
The original?
Yeah.
Yeah. Carrie's awesome.
There's something very freaky about that movie.
Her mother, dude. Oh my god.
No, wait. All right. So I just watched the remake.
I haven't seen the remake
about a week
yet.
ago. It's on Netflix.
Yeah, it is on Netflix.
Watch it. Dude, I had my mom watch it too. I was blown away by, oh fuck, what's her name? The one who did the mother.
Julianne Moore.
Yeah. Oh
yeah.
my
Julianne Moore
God.
plays the mother.
She did
That's the only reason why I really want to see
a
it.
good job.
Because she's playing the mother.
Now, okay. Here's my take on this movie. I really enjoyed it. However, I feel they did the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle thing a little bit too.
Oh, probably.
Where they glorified her as, like, her powers. Like, you know, like, oh, this is a cool thing. Like, she became almost like an anti-hero.
Yeah, yeah.
No. Not good. She needs to be a fucking psychomaniac who is bullied, takes abuse, and finally snaps.
Yeah.
This was, you learn to like her. Like, even me, I was rooting for her. When I watched the original, I was just like, this bitch. Like, oh my God.
Yeah. Well, again, they kind of, because the original it's pretty thin in that respect.
Yeah.
Like, it's just kind of like, here's what's happening. Here's the people in this. Her mother's psycho. She's sort of like a loner.
Yeah, you're
and
right.
like, and that's about it.
It's just a straight line.
Yeah,
that's the only way.
And like all this stuff happens, and John Travolta dumps blood on her, and you know whatever it is, and that's it. And then she just fucking wreaks havoc and all that shit. And I love the scene at the end when the hand comes through the ground.
Yeah,
and, but Carrie's great.
Like the thing is, like, all right, now how do we word this without offending people?
I think that ship has sailed.
The first movie, I forget the name of the actress that played Carrie.
Oh, Sissy Spacek.
Okay. See, they did a really, really good job at picking an actress that was so
like she looks weird,
unattractive.
Yeah, like she looks like
so
she's
bland.
Like she looks like she's the loner at your high school that like you have questions about.
Yes, like. I was just like watching her, like you were just like, yeah, throw your fucking bloody tampons at her.
Yeah.
Like, all right, no, not that I would ever do that.
Yeah.
But
it's
like,
and that's
like
the great thing
like,
about
you're
it.
Loner, like there's something going on.
Yeah, I mean, it was very raw. She was raw.
Like you wouldn't like you go back to your high school days, you're not going to stop, people from doing that if you saw it.
Yeah.
Watching the Carrie movie, you're like, well, she's just a normal girl. Like she's not unattractive. She's not,
yeah,
that she's not Sissy Spacek. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So that's where I felt like it's like, all right, that's your first mistake. Second, you're glorifying the powers where you're making them interesting. Like it was more about, there's more scenes where she's learning about it and, she's raising things, they're dropping, whatever.
Yeah. That's like, not the same.
And for me, it was the scene where she's doing that and she raises the bed and it drops and she goes, cool. Like, and it's just like, you just made it, you just turned this into a superhero movie. Like, in a weird way.
I can see that. I can see that. And that's sort of like the exact opposite of what the original was meant to be.
It's not freaking her out. With the Sissy Spacek one, it was like, she was scared of it.
Yeah.
If I remember right.
And that's another thing. Brian De Palma directed the original.
Yeah.
And I mean, he's great. His stuff is great. And he's always had a very specific vision with how he does his films. And that's just sort of, that sort of plays a role in that. And I don't know who directed the remake, but I mean, what can you expect? It's the year 2014 that came out. And it's,
I mean, overall, I really enjoyed the movie, and I recommend it to you and anyone else who enjoyed the first movie.
Yep.
So that was 4. 5. I'm torn now that we talked about it because I didn't think about it earlier when I was coming up with my list the other day. Halloween, yes, but then the Saw movie because again, our generation.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and again, it has that psychological aspect to it that I enjoy more.
Sure.
So it's kind of a toss up between Halloween and Saw.
I mean, either one is a good choice.
Yeah.
I mean, and there's, I mean, we can go on and on. I mean, there's a bunch of movies that I didn't even bring up. Like, I'm a huge fan of Rosemary's Baby. I'm a huge fan of.
I'm trying to remember. And it sounds awful. I don't remember if I saw that one, but I think I did.
I mean, it's kind of it's along the same lines as The Omen, but it's a little different. Like, basically, a young couple moves into an apartment building, and their neighbors are like Satan worshippers, and the woman gets like subjected to basically birthing the spawn of Satan, you know, and you know, just this weird shit starts happening. The husband gets sort of taken into the cult and all this stuff, you know. But there's there's a scene in the.
I don't think I've seen it.
There's a scene in the middle of the film which is like basically she's, you know, whacked out on drugs, and there's like the scene where she's actually being she's getting the seed.
Oh, okay.
And it's just, the scene is really whacked out, and it's just like, oh my goodness. You know, so there's that movie. I'm a huge fan of that movie. And also, so here's a good one that we could talk about real quick. I'm going to keep this as quick as I can. Teeth.
Really? We're going to go there?
We're going to go there. We're going to go
fuck.
to Teeth.
Wait, that's the one with friggin'...
It's basically a girl's vagina that has teeth in it.
But that's not what's... No, I'm thinking
No, we're not thinking about that one. We'll get to that one.
Wait, no, what's her name?
I don't know the girl who played her, but...
No, I'm thinking of... I'm drawing a point blank on someone I should know her name completely. Freaking Ninja Turtles, April.
I didn't see it.
People are going to hate me right now. They're screaming at me right now.
Well, anyway, so
the one everyone thinks is hot, and
Megan Fox?
Yes, Megan Fox. What was that movie she was in?
Jennifer's Body.
Oh, okay, that's what I'm confusing. Okay.
Oh yeah. Huh, not the same movie.
Okay.
Teeth is this really, really odd film that was just like, it's basically about this girl who has teeth in her vagina.
So she has a Venus flytrap for a vagina.
Yeah.
Okay.
Essentially, yeah. And like,
I'm pretty sure I have an ex.
The beginning of the movie, she like, you know, there's some cutting that goes on, and like things happen, and she's like afraid of it, and she's trying to figure it out. But by the end of the film, she learns how to control it, and she uses it as a weapon. And it's like, well, fuck, that's fucking terrifying.
That reminds me of Carrie.
Yeah,
like the new one.
Yeah. So there's Teeth, and then of course there's the infamous movie that we've talked about.
Oh,
that
all right, here we go.
Now, so Sam and I actually talked to Sam about this yesterday, and I do think we're gonna pick it up.
Can
soon.
I be present during this viewing? Maybe.
Yeah. Now I have not seen it, so I don't know.
I'll bring popcorn. I don't care.
I don't really know what it truly is about, but I have a gist of what it's about because I've read about it.
All right,
and I know a lot of things that's surrounding it.
Let's
so
bring
basically,
this to light the best way we can.
There's this film called Cannibal Holocaust.
There you go.
Now, for those of you who are listening, you've probably seen it at Bull Moose for $30, and it's like, well, why is a movie from like the 90s or the 80s? You know, I don't know when it was made, unfortunately, but it's one of the movies I love seeing when people who are really well known for a genre chime in on movies, like when Clive Barker commented on Jeepers Creepers, and it's like, oh, this is like one of the scariest movies I've ever seen.
Also, one of the movies I have not seen.
Jeepers Creepers is pretty cool.
I know that's Kelly. Like Kelly and Steve really enjoyed that movie.
Yeah, it's a good one. The first one is great. The second one is whatever, but the first one is great.
I need to see that one too.
It's a good watch. So like, you know, you have these giants of the industry that are just like, yeah, this is a good watch. Quentin Tarantino was like, yeah, this is the scariest movie I've ever seen. Now, if Quentin Tarantino is saying that, it's like, okay, so there's something here. So basically, and now again, I haven't seen it, and maybe some of you who are listening have seen it, and I can't wait to watch it because it's at a point now where I have to.
Yeah.
It's basically about this team of, I think they're college students or interns or some kind or something like that, and they're making a documentary about a tribe and some like distant island culture, you know, village type of deal, they're trying to just get information about this really, really long lost tribe of people who live somewhere in some place. I don't know where it is. I don't remember if I ever caught where they actually lived. I think it's like deep in the Amazon or something like that. But basically, this group of people go there to make a film about these people, and it turns out they're cannibals. And
Right.
they go through all this shit, and the film it's still banned in like 19 countries or something like that. There's 8 counts of animal cruelty, or 6, something like that, 6 to 8 counts of actual animal cruelty. And I've been told about the turtle scene, so I guess I'll pay attention to the turtle scene.
All right, I will wait to watch this turtle scene.
So again, and the coolest, okay, I don't know if cool is the word for it, but an interesting aspect about this film was that when the actors signed on, they were told they had to sign a contract that said that they could not do any sort of interview or any public appearance about anything.
So no media.
It was like they were in like media lockdown for 6 months after the film, because it was to indicate that they were actually getting killed.
So it was a snuff film.
So it was believed to be a snuff film when it came out, which I think that kind of plays a role to it being banned. It was done by an Italian director. I don't remember the guy's name, but it was an Italian director, and it's just a very, very odd looking film, and it's very intriguing to me. It's very intriguing for some weird reason, but it's like, you know, and the fact that people thought it was a snuff film, like what the fuck is happening in this movie? That people, and I've seen stills and I've seen like a few clips here and there of what's going on, and it looks kind of like low budget, like B-list horror movie style filming, but something's going on with this movie that you're just like, okay, what's going on here? Like this is a little intense.
It almost gives you like an eerie
like,
presence.
Yeah, like if people thought that people were dying, and like, you know, because like, oh, where's this person? Like we haven't seen them since. Oh, wait a minute. So like, you know, and I've seen clips of like a girl who gets like impaled by a stick, and like and there's the thing is, I don't honestly remember I don't remember when it was like when it came out. I'm drawing a blank on that, but all the actors have given very sought out interviews about this film. It's like, yeah, I mean, everything was really well planned, you know. All the stunts and the props and things like that were very well thought out. And, you know, besides the whole animal cruelty thing, I think they kind of dropped the ball on that one.
Didn't they have a lawsuit on it, though?
Yeah.
But I don't think it was for the animal cruelty.
I don't. They probably had quite a few.
For something else.
Maybe.
I think that was what made him bring to light the fact that people didn't die. I think lawsuit.
I think eventually, like, when push came to shove, he had to, like, be
he was like, look, they're not
they're
dead.
alive. Like, you know, this is just a... So I don't know. Again, I feel like I might be off the mark with some of my information here, but so for those of you who have seen it, you know, I would love to talk to you about it, because I feel like I'm going to be seeing it fairly soon.
Yeah,
Sam really wants to watch.
I
really want to watch.
I really hope I'm there. Like,
yeah.
Even if, like, hell, you guys want to come here? I got the sound system. I got the TV.
Like, I feel like I'm going to be watching this standing up the entire time. Just be like, okay, what's next?
So yeah. You are more than welcome. You guys come over. I got popcorn. Get some ice cream.
Nice.
Oh man, yeah, that was a movie we have been talking about for quite some time. At least since the summertime, we were talking about it.
Yeah, I remember that day. Yep.
Anything else you can really add?
Well, I mean, in what sense? Like, I like horror movies, and I know a lot of people are there with me. And the thing is, everyone likes a different type of horror movie, and the nice thing is there's so many to choose from, and sometimes it's just fun to go back and watch. Like recently, Sam and I went back, and I've seen them, but I never owned the 3 original Dead movies. You know, Night of the Living Dead, Dawn of the Dead, and Day of the Dead. I love Night of the Living Dead.
Okay.
And Dawn of the Dead, of course, is I never saw the remake, but I've heard it was good, and you know, it's a great film. I'm not much of a zombie movie person, like zombies or whatever to me, but I like Night of the Living Dead.
Yeah.
And you know, so the older movies I always feel are more fun. especially because you get to really put yourself in like a situation where it's like, okay, imagine being like 15 or 16 years old in the 70s and have this movie come out, or the 60s and have this movie come out. It's like, what was the world like at that point? You know, the world was a different place, which is why films like The Exorcist had such a giant like impact because of the time that they came out with. And I'll tell you something about The Exorcist too. I saw that in the theaters. Lowe's was doing this. They do this thing where Lowe's will bring back old films for like a short run at the theater. So it was Halloween one year, and I went to go see The Exorcist in the theater. And I'm telling you, man, seeing it on the big screen was fucking terrifying.
Yeah.
Like when you see the short clip of Captain Howdy's face come up, and you're like, oh my god.
Fun fact though about Eric, he loves horror films, loves this shit, hates Halloween.
Yeah, I'm not a Halloween fan.
Yeah, right? How does that happen?
I don't know.
And not the movie, like the actual day, the holiday.
Yeah, it's that is a funny fact to bring up. It's just not my thing. I've never been.
Sam somewhere is screaming at you. Right
yeah,
now.
She's mad. She's always mad. Even when it's not Halloween, it could be Easter, and she's like, "What's your costume gonna be?" It's like, Sam, it's Easter. Okay, like relax. What's your costume gonna be? I'm like, I don't know yet. And 9 times out of 10, I put my costume together like an hour before we have to go somewhere.
this last year was pretty good, entertaining.
This last year was pretty funny.
Steve, our last guest, dressed up like you.
It was pretty flattering, actually.
Well, what do they say? You know, imitation is the most sincere form of flattery.
It is.
So.
It is. That's right.
That's kind of like when at Greg's house for, what was it, like Cinco de Mayo, the sweatshirt.
Oh,
thing.
yeah. That was funny, too.
That was fun.
Yeah, I've never been... I mean, when I was younger, I'm sure I was into it. Like,
no, like, what makes you unattracted to Halloween?
I don't know. You know what? I'm not a huge fan of costumes.
Okay.
I don't really get dressed up for shit. Like, the idea of like putting on a costume that costs you $70 for one night to just have it get ripped and sweaty, it's like, I don't know. It's not appealing to me. When I was younger, trick or treat, yeah, sure, that's great. You get to walk around and get candy, and we did that until we were juniors in high school. But I don't know. I celebrate Halloween by watching Stephen King and other horror movies like that. But
there's nothing wrong with that.
No, and I think in recent years I've been a little less bitter towards it. I've now moved to a state of just being like, whatever.
It is what it is.
It is what it is.
Yeah.
You know, some years back I might have been bitter. It's like, oh, I fucking hate Halloween because everyone else loves it and I want to be against the grain. Yeah. But, you know.
Like I said, I do that with movies. Like,
and people do that with everything. They just don't know it.
For whatever reason, it was V for Vendetta.
Never saw it.
Everybody went ballistic for this movie.
Yep.
One friend in particular, we'll just say that, was very, very persistent on me and everyone else seeing this movie. And I was just like, don't care.
Yeah. I never saw it.
And I eventually saw it, and it was great. Don't get me wrong. Like, it's a really good movie that I could watch probably anytime and enjoy it.
Yep.
But there's something about with people who just hype things so much.
Hype is a it's a
killer. It really is.
It's a funny thing. Hype. I'll tell you though, what was even funnier is when the guy was running around England and peeking in people's windows wearing the Guy Fawkes mask. Yeah. I feel like that's happened on more than one occasion.
Yeah, it's just
every now and then you'll see a news article be like, "Oh, guy wearing V for Vendetta mask is running around a rural neighborhood looking in people's windows."
We talked about it, but we didn't actually name them. Movies that like really bad horror or awful good horror movies, like the ones that were bad but you enjoyed yourself.
Bad that I enjoyed. Well, I mentioned that the Dunwich Horror one. I'm gonna classify Teeth under that.
Okay, yeah, no,
like Teeth was like whatever. Like,
all right, ready? You know, this is.
It's just it was a very odd like plot, but
I got two. One, I don't even know if it's supposed to be a horror film, but
that's usually a bad start.
Cabin Fever.
I don't think I saw that one.
Me, Kelly, and Steve loved that movie.
Yeah.
And
cool.
It's It's got like it's a dark comedy, but it's horror at
Yeah.
the same time.
I don't think I saw that one.
Ready? This is just people are just gonna freaking shoot me. Freddy versus Jason. It was on TV the other day, and I was like, "Why is this movie on TV?"
I would love to
Because it
watch that
can't be on
again because
TV.
when I saw that, I was too young to really care. Like I was too young to try to convince myself that I had a knowledgeable opinion about how movies worked.
Okay,
I was just there to see a movie. You know what I mean? I would love to go and watch that and see how bad people say it actually is because I don't doubt that it is, but it's like I don't remember it being bad. I don't remember it being good. I don't remember it. You know, it's just I'd like to watch it again and just be like, oh yeah, okay, yeah, it's pretty bad.
no, it's awful. And I mean, the whole "Welcome to My Nightmare" bitch thing, like,
Yeah,
Freddy, he tries to be funny all the time, and it's just like he's not.
I never saw
funny.
it. I never saw the remake, but I love the original House on Haunted Hill.
Yes,
I don't know how the remake turned out.
I
But,
don't know.
I mean, this isn't really classified as being a bad one that is good. But again, I'm just kind of thinking of horror remakes because a lot of times they
We
just
should've-
get remakes.
I didn't even think about that. Like the remakes, we could have had a conversation on that too.
Yeah, I mean, let's see, bad but are good. Like in a sense, the Grindhouse movies are
Yeah.
sort of meant to be like the slap comedy of the horror films.
Mhm.
You know, they're meant to be the drive-through double feature. I mean, Planet Terror was pretty ridiculous.
Cursed is another one that was pretty like bad. That was meant to be ridiculous.
Yeah. I like Grindhouse. Like I'll always watch that. I don't really classify that as being bad on purpose, but it was ridiculous. If that's what you want to classify along with it. I think I've seen parts. We mentioned it earlier. I think I've seen parts of Jennifer's Body.
Yeah.
That was meant to be like a disaster.
Yeah.
A disaster. But
You know, she wasn't even really naked for that movie. Like,
Yeah, I've heard
put
that.
like those pasty things on.
yeah.
Tease.
Yeah, tell me about it. You know, we can go on and on about movies that were supposed like the first Leprechaun movie.
Oh,
Was
my
pretty
God.
cool.
Yeah.
Everything else, complete shit show.
Mhm.
Like everything else.
What isn't like Leprechaun 2 like down in history as like one of the worst things ever? to
Probably.
happen?
I
I
just
think it's Leprechaun.
I remember one of them had like Ice Cube or like Ice Tea in it or something like that, or Lipton or whatever the rappers' names are, and like it's just like you went from being like a normal like Chucky style horror movie with
Chucky,
Jennifer
that's another one
Aniston.
we could talk about. Damn.
Chucky's great. With Jennifer Aniston in the first Leprechaun movie, and it's just, it was a pretty typical, interesting movie to watch.
See, you could bring up the Scream movies, which
Oh,
were
yeah.
our
Oh,
generation.
yeah.
We could bring up the I Know What You Did Last Summer movies.
Yep.
Like, there's so much,
There's so many,
and we only
and they kind of and they go in waves too.
yeah.
Like it's like they have the peak, and like it's really great. Like that's how I think Paranormal Activity is right now.
Yeah.
Paranormal Activity has a good hold over the horror genre right now,
Mhm.
but that's because they keep busting out sequels.
Yeah.
There's also I'm a big fan of like even straight up like monster movies. Like we could get into like the Dracula stuff.
Yeah.
Like I don't care how much of a hipster it makes me. I'm a huge fan of Nosferatu. The
Mhm.
black and white original Dracula movie, the silent film. I could watch that thing over and over again. It's just interesting to watch.
See,
The Francis Ford Coppola Dracula
I
movie.
need to see it. I really do.
You don't really need to. Like
Really?
it's. I mean, well, you should, but I'm not going to tell anybody that they should watch Nosferatu. I'm a fan of it, but I would never tell anybody like, yeah, you should watch a 90-minute silent film where it's in like another language and the only thing you can understand is when the little screen comes up that tells you the words on it.
Yeah.
It's cool to watch though. It is a pretty fun watch. I haven't seen a lot of like the newer versions of monster movies. Like I never saw like the new Frankenstein movie or this new Dracula movie that came out. It looks good.
Oh, Dracula Untold?
Yeah,
I saw
I haven't
that.
seen it. It looked cool, but I haven't
it's not,
seen
It's
it.
not a horror movie by any means.
Yeah,
it's an
they
action
tend to
film.
not be like kind of like the Van Helsing style movies of like.
Actually, if you
It's
saw,
border-
which I
it's
don't
border.
think you did, the Abraham Lincoln Vampire Hunter.
I never saw it.
It's an action movie like that.
Yeah.
Like, and it's actually got the same guy who's in it, like one of the guys who played his friend in
Yep.
the movie.
Yep.
He's the villain in Dracula Untold.
Oh,
I
cool.
thought it was a cool story because I like movies like that can combine history, like they take factual events and fantasy and mesh them together.
Yeah, it's
perfectly.
It's like Hellboy.
Yeah,
and what's the other one there? I forget. But yeah, so like we're kind of getting away from like the horror, and it's more of like a monster themed thing. Like I remember one day I was like, I'm gonna go buy a horror movie, and I ended up buying the new Wolfman movie with Benicio del Toro in it.
How was that?
Pretty bad.
Yeah.
Like pretty.
Sounded
like
it was.
There was one section of the movie that was completely awesome, and if they went with that entire theme for the whole thing, I feel like they could have got a hit.
Mm-hmm.
But it was just like, yeah, whatever. It's like,
yeah, they tried.
It was a I've spent $10 on worse things before, but I've certainly spent it on better things as well.
So I think we clearly have come to the conclusion that we do thoroughly enjoy this genre.
Oh yeah,
of movies,
absolutely,
and that I have slacked. I need to see movies that I haven't seen, and you as well. So I don't feel as bad as anymore.
No. There's always gonna be people who have like that gap.
Yeah.
In culture. I literally watched The Ring for the first time last week.
Really?
For the first time.
What did you think
last week? I liked it.
It's such a good movie.
Yeah. I mean, and I was never gonna not like it, but I just never saw it.
Even The Grudge was okay. Like it wasn't The Ring status, but it was the first one. Fuck everything else that came after Grudge 1.
Mm-hmm.
It was good, and I really want to see the Japanese film because I heard it's like terrifying.
Oh yeah, all the movies that are based around the Japanese like original films or whatever. Like there's, I can only imagine. How
like I heard even for The Ring too, like Ringu.
Oh, Ringu is like nuts.
Yeah, I kind of need to see that. But yeah, so we are horror film fans. We enjoy them. We need to see more.
Oh yeah. Always.
Hopefully they come up with some new good ones that are cheesy and corny.
It's going to be interesting to see the direction that they're going in, because right now they're sort of on like a
paranormal.
Like a paranormal / like Exorcist style thing. Like there's
The
a lot
Conjuring. I saw that. That was a good one.
Yeah. Is that the one that's based off the family, the couple that did the documentary on the Amityville house?
Yes.
Yeah.
I heard the one after that, Annabelle, wasn't that good.
I wouldn't know, but all those new ones, like again, it's kind of getting like this resurgence.
Yeah,
all that like a specific style is coming back around, and it's really, really thick right now.
Which I'm hoping that they turn out to be good.
Yeah.
All right, cool. Well, that kind of wraps that up. So let's wrap this whole thing up, kind of.
Okay.
Now, you've been a guest.
I have been
in the hot seat.
Yes.
And you've also been a guest that kind of witnessed
the wallflower.
What's your take of the With Friends Like These podcast?
I think it's a good time. I think people who get to come into the hot seat are like, oh my god, I get to talk about myself for like 3 hours. That's awesome.
But it's technically kind of stuff we do already.
Yeah, it is. And I think that was your whole point. And I think the people who are listening to this, like, you either A, have a lot of time on your hands and don't know what else to do, or but no, it's a lot of fun.
I definitely like the 2-parter thing better. I think it's gonna be a better.
Yeah,
do one like on a Monday and then maybe like a Thursday.
Sure.
Post the second one.
Yeah, and I think you'll get the responses that you get will help you kind of. I mean, again, a lot of times things like this, it's a group effort.
Yeah.
It's not only your decision. Like it's what people will think is a good idea, and they'll report back to you or whatever. It's like, so it's sort of a group project.
I had a ton of responses from the first one, and I mean it was.
I mean, Steve's not that interesting, so I don't really know where that came from. Like, oh my god, we want more of this guy. Why? Steve's a fuck. Like, I don't care. I'll say it. I'll say it again. Steve, you're a fuck.
Wait, you're getting ahead of me. You're getting way ahead of me. But no, I had kind of the word almost overwhelming response from the first one. I had texts coming in from everybody, just like, I listened to it, I listened to most of it. A lot of people didn't finish it. I get it. It was 2.5 hours long almost.
Yep.
That's why I'm like, coming up with this one. I was like, hey, let's do a 2-parter. So hour and a half for the first one. People can kind of do that. That's a commute to work and back, something like that.
Sure.
And so I'm what's the word I'm looking for here? Evolving it, from the start to, however it takes off. And I have yet to even go into what I want to do. I wanted to do kind of like analyst shows of things like, like sports, movies,
Sure.
TV shows.
Yep.
So that's definitely coming. I just haven't figured out how to attack that yet.
Yep. Well, I mean, and again, I'll use this as an example, but I've talked to you about it before too. The Chive.
Yep.
Right. The Chive recently started doing a podcast.
And I had no idea. I swear to God, no clue.
They started doing a podcast, and they've talked about it before. Now, the Chive, not to get too much onto the Chive, because that's not really the point at all, but it's a very thick community. Like, the Chive community is a very, very good community in terms of its communication with each other. And the guys at the Chive are always talking about how they kind of started the vehicle, but they're not the ones who are driving it anymore.
Yeah.
It's the community.
Yep.
So I think what's going to happen is the more you get into this and the more ideas you have, you'll get response from people in the ways that you presented to them.
Yeah, see, like,
and be like, it's like, okay, well, we dug this.
If
but,
we get a following, awesome. If we don't, I don't really care. I would love to have a following only because I love to incorporate those people into it. You know what I mean? I like to ask questions. I'd like to, like, tell me what you want to hear. Ask questions for Eric the next time he's on. Ask questions for Steve the next time he's on.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
How do you feel about this show? How do you,
right.
Bruins, Celtics, Patriots.
And people will always have something to chime in about that.
So,
that's, I mean,
right
and even
now,
if it's...
Clearly people listen to it. I said I got an overwhelming response. That was awesome. Hopefully this one, kind of gives them more of what they liked in the first one. Granted, you're not Steve, but...
Oh, well, not all of us can be Steve.
Which segues me into the second question.
I wish you saw my face when I said that.
What's your thought about the Steve podcast?
That's what I thought about the Steve podcast. Oh my God. Wait a minute. What kind of question is that? Do I have a target on my back or something like that?
Steve's listening to you right now, I'm sure.
Well, I was here for it.
Yeah.
I did not listen to it. So I was here for the live recording of it. It was great. I mean, he has a very interesting career. And
see, I've been telling people the past couple of days who've been asking me about it. And I'll say the same thing about you. Both of you are great storytellers. Yeah. I'm always happy to sit and listen to you guys talk because it's just so fluent, and I'm jealous. Like I always wanted to be something like that. Like I strive to be a fluent storyteller, someone who's entertaining, someone who can captivate an audience.
Well, that's nice of you to say about me.
So listening to you guys talk is just like
Yeah,
cool.
I mean, and the thing is, I mean, and you have someone like Steve who comes in and he just talks about the stuff that he does, and like I think about what he says. I'm like, man, I can't even imagine how that, like, because I'm not the type of person to really like talk about my line of work all that much.
Mm-hmm.
I just don't do it. I'd rather like just talk about like
there's an outlet for you to do it.
I'd rather talk about like random shit like horror movies or like beer or the latest episode of How I Met Your Mother when it was still on. It's shit like that. Like I feel like sometimes the last thing I want to do is think about.
Well, that's
music.
Professionally. How do we really feel about Steve personally?
Well, Steve's a fuck. I'll say it again. Steve, you're a fuck.
You're kind of letting me down here.
What's funny is
trash talk him. Come on, goddammit.
Well, no, this is funny because he did that I know of. He did trash talk me when he was in here the first time because it was the first episode.
He did it to your face. You were sitting right there.
Well, no, but not to this extent. Yeah, so he's not in front of me right now, so I can fucking say whatever I want. I'm not going to, but I could if I wanted to. No, I think I think this is a fun thing that you have going here. And the idea
which
of
is funny
keeping the themes
we had a
going.
phone call. You were kind of skeptical about it.
I was skeptical about it because I just didn't, I'm the type of person to want to sometimes I tend to want to see a goal.
Yeah.
And that doesn't necessarily always mean there has to be one right away.
I think
or
for me,
that doesn't
I have
necessarily
a goal.
mean it has to be set in stone.
Yeah, the thing is, I have a goal. I just have a hard way of showing it for this at least. Like, I can't. There's no words or physical object I can place in front of you and be like, this is what I want to get to.
Yeah, and sometimes my brain tells me like, okay, well, wait, what's the point? Like, what's the goal here? What are we doing this for?
Awesome.
But sometimes.
Well, I'm glad. I'm more than appreciative and happy that you came down. That you were my second guest. Honestly, it was it was a toss up between you and Steve at first. I was just like, fuck, which one?
That's fine.
So
I'll remember that. I'll remember it. Don't worry about it. I'll remember that.
But hey, like anything, like I said, in the first episode, take a minute or so. Anything on your chest? Anything going on right now that you would like to let out? It's we're calling it the Casey couch, like it's a therapist couch. The Casey couch. Go ahead.
Okay. No, okay. All right. I dig this.
Last time I did this with Steve, there was a lot of editing. So
no, you know what? Sometimes I get really sick of my job sometimes. It's, again, I can go on and on about it in terms of the money aspect of it, but the idea of that people just and I'm sure that people can do this with any career. It's not just musicians, but like people like to assume a lot. They just like to be like, they just assume things and like, oh, so let me just try to, and again, it's, yeah, you're right. It's human nature. It's the point. The point is to try to get the best results for you personally as you can get. So it just feels like lately, and yeah, you're probably going to have to do a lot of editing. The only thing really about my job that kind of can get a little frustrating sometimes is the fact that you don't always know what's going to happen. And it's pretty stressful. You know, I don't know when my next paycheck's coming in other than a student. I don't know when my next gig's coming up. I don't know if I'm going to have a gig 3 months from now. I don't know if I'm going to have a gig 3 years from now. And I mean, that could be stressful on a whole different, on a whole bunch of levels. Financially, especially, that's a big thing, and my time is very, very valuable to me in terms of like, I want to make sure that if I have to do something, it's going to be worth it.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes it's not always worth it. Sometimes you have to think of it in a different perspective to convince yourself that it's an okay decision to make. Like 9 times out of 10, I have to travel to work. You know what I mean? I have to drive 15 minutes to this rehearsal, half hour to this rehearsal, 40 minutes to this gig, an hour to this gig, whatever it is. Very rarely do I get to go like 5 minutes down the street for a paid gig that's, good. So it's a stressful situation. And I don't think a lot of people really get that unless you do it, or if you have been around someone who does. And I'm not a fan of people who make assumptions. At no point during Steve's thing, when he was talking about all the different things that he's seen on the job, at no point was like, oh, well, how bad can that be? Like, no, like he's talking about people's lives that are like in danger. At no point do I consider myself an expert and be like, okay, well, there's no way that it's all bad. There's a silver lining somewhere. And there might be, but I don't necessarily know where that is. And the same thing applies with me. It's like, it's really fucking frustrating sometimes to have to be a full-time musician and be like, okay, I got to do this song. I got to learn this fucking song. I got to do this shit. I got to do this. I got to make sure I can this work. Because the other problem is I'm my own worst enemy in terms of my playing. Like if I don't like how I played something, I'm going to remember it and be like, okay, well that sucked. Like let's not do that again.
I can relate. I know.
It's a constant struggle of some kind to some level.
Yeah.
And
absolutely.
It's just, and I can say that about, again, that's like the theme of my whole day here. Like you can say that about anything, I'm sure, in life, but me being a musician, that's all I know. Mm-hmm. So it's like, it's really sometimes frustrating to be your own worst enemy. It's like, if you don't travel an hour and a half to do this gig for $50, you might not get this call back. Like, okay, well, it's an hour and a half away. I don't really want that call back, because $50, that's a waste.
Yeah.
You're losing in that in that respect.
Hey, and it goes back to what we said on the first episode. It's not as glorious as it may seem.
No, it's not. It really isn't. Don't get me wrong. It can be a great fucking time sometimes.
No, but as you said, you love what you do.
I wouldn't trade it in for anything else.
So to kind of make this on a end this on a high note, recap everything, episode 1 and episode 2. You're a professional musician. It's what you always wanted to be.
Yep.
You enjoy it.
I do.
And just like any job, there's stresses that come along with it.
Sure. Absolutely.
Right?
Yep.
But in the end, you still do it. Why?
Because I love it.
Exactly. Right?
And I wouldn't trade it in for anything else. And I feel like if I was to go back and do it again,
I
would do it the same exact way.
I think the best things in life kind of have that feel to it. Like, even like with relationships, there's trials and tribulations.
Sure.
But you wouldn't leave that person because you love them.
Yeah.
Because it's
the few snags don't outweigh
exactly
all the wonderful things about it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's just how life is. If you let every single small problem overcome all the good parts about something, then you're never gonna find happiness in anything you do.
Oh yeah.
I mean, like if the fact that Pennywise the clown ended up being a giant praying mantis was enough to ruin the entire It movie for me, then I wouldn't be watching it. But thankfully, all the other cool scenes in the rest of the movie, that's a good fucking analogy.
We never brought up It.
Yeah, well, so, that small fact doesn't outweigh the rest of the movie for me.
Yeah.
It just doesn't.
Awesome. Well, hey, I really need to think about how to, change. I kind of rework this couch part in here because this ends it on a heavy note every single time.
Huh. All right. I wouldn't say heavy. I would say insightful.
Okay, yeah, you know what? As long as people look at it that way. And hopefully,
who knows how they look at it? They might be like, whoa.
Hey, whoever is listening, if you're on the Twitter, if you're on the Facebook, weigh in on that. Look at that. Our first interaction. I know, I was going to tag you.
I don't have Twitter. I never got a Twitter. I was
going to tag you on the Twitter one. And oh, wait, there's no Eric or Baldy.
I don't do Twitter.
Nice. Well, if you want to get a hold of Eric, go through the Twitter page, go through the Facebook page. We will, I keep saying we like there's more than one person here running this shit. I feel like I have like an identity crisis online too, because half the time I'm like, I will do this. And then I'm like, oh, we hear it. The with friends. What? No, it's just me.
Yeah.
It's just me.
Yeah.
But no, anything for Eric, send it to me. I will forward it his way and he will definitely be back. See, the best part about this is I'm making this as soon as everyone comes on. It's becoming a community.
Yeah.
That's what I want it to be. It's going to be a community of us. And once it's a cast of characters, as I've been saying, it's exhausting at this point. But that's what it's going to be. And people are going to get to know us, hopefully love us, hate me.
Join the club.
Wow.
What happened? I didn't say that.
Yeah. But yeah, and it's just hopefully this is gonna be a long running thing that is just fun for us and cool for people to listen to.
Yeah, man.
So I want to take the opportunity again to thank you for coming on, being my guest.
Thank you. It was so fun. I had a lot of fun.
I'm glad to hear. And you'll be back, hopefully.
Hopefully. Maybe. We'll see.
Yeah.
Like if I get a bunch of comments that are like, wow, this guy's a jerk. Like, well, fine then.
Yeah.
Be that way.
Well, find us online. Thanks for joining us as always. Till next time. Eric, again, thank you.
Thank you.
Look forward to seeing you again soon.
Me too.